teams when they were freshmen, they did play in kind of a spread zone type system, even though we're more of a gap scheme. A run game wise, we spent probably more practice time on offense, but that will change come Wednesday because that's when the rubber meets the road, and we got to make sure that we're preparing for the scrimmages and for our first game.
As a coach in an offensive mind, you start getting to work with these guys. You like having two backs. You like having heavy tight end looks sometimes. How's it feel having 9-4 and Brock up to be able to carry the ball?
We have a big backfield. We have another kid who's not here, Jalen Lowright, who's going to be in the backfield. Also, he's a D lineman. So the majority of our running backs are either a linebacker or a defensive lineman for us as well. Which, as you know, if you covered my games in the past, those are things that we like to do. And that's going to be if we are playing the freshman at quarterback, that's going to be his best friend, so to speak, is those big power backs where we can really control the tempo of the game.
Coach, on a personal level, the game last year at Morehead in Walkertown, we going into that game, it was a tough game. Like, tough players on the Morehead side, we all said it. Knowing you and your background, your teams in the past, and toughness, like how much more is that going to be for teams going into this fall?
That's been always my kind of calling card or my identity is I want teams when they either leaving, wherever I'm coaching now is Eden, or they see our bus leave, they're like, dang, that was a football game. And we don't want to see those guys again on the schedule. We worked very hard at every place that I've been to kind of switch that dynamic. Unfortunately here, that dynamic is there. We're just trying to pull it out a little bit more and make sure that it permeates between everybody. And that it's not just one or two that want to play hard, it's the whole team. And that's kind of where we get that whole idea of SEO serve each other. That we're one, that we're all going to leave it on the field together, that we're going to practice hard, and that way it's going to translate to Friday nights and Thursday nights for our JVs.
I got a question for Brock and Hagan. How is wrestling? We'll start with Hagan. First of all, wrestling, how has that helped your position and your success in wrestling? And secondly, your guys' team success, how are you bleeding that into the spring and heading into the football season?
Wrestling's helped me big time, being a bigger guy with my hips definitely, but it also translates in my personality because wrestling is a very competitive sport, and if you're on my team, you're going to be my friend, but if you're going against me, you're my enemy. So, of course, I'm very competitive. It helps. It's very hand in hand with everything. So good for both sports.
And Brock, wrestling, how do you take that to the linebacker position?
So wrestling's always helped me just understand how low I need to be. It helped control my pad level a little bit better because I'm a little bit shorter already than most big guys that play my position, but just that little half an inch helps me get under everything I need to get under and just explode through people. And that's what I like to do. So.
Coach, I was wondering, just speaking to a lot of people in the Eden community, I know they are hungry for wins in football, and I know that you guys up there underneath the pads and the helmet have heard the same thing. But in terms of the coaching change, there's been a coaching carousel over there in Morehead for a while, which I know has been tough on these seniors in particular. But to the fans of Morehead football, what can you say to them in terms of hopefully installing a winning culture?
I think that starts with consistency, and that speaks to what you're saying with that carousel. I'm looking forward to stopping that carousel. I'm looking forward to being in Eden and Morehead for a long time. It fits with, where I live, where my parents live, where my wife works, where my kids go to schools. There's a lot of things that aligned, kind of perfectly right there in a row when this job opened up. I know most people will look at it as coach speech. Every year somebody's, oh, this is my job, my dream job, or whatever. But I don't see a better job in the state for me in my situation. I don't see a better job in any other state for me in my situation, especially with 3 small kids. I got a 10, an 8, and a 6-year-old. They love it. They're at practice almost every day now. My wife teaches right across the road. My parents live a mile away from the school. I go to church right across the street. So that's going to make Sunday meetings a lot easier and a lot less stressful on me. Which that's what you look for in coaching jobs too, is kind of that work-life balance. And that was part of the reason why, when this job opened, I jumped over it, because my work-life balance was out of skew. And I realized that when I, having small kids, and I needed to get back closer to home.
I know you mentioned returning home, obviously, left the county, came back. I mean, how does it feel for you to get back kind of in your home territory and kind of the pride that comes with this job that you talked about a little bit just then?
It's great. It was kind of bittersweet, kind of weird. Anytime you leave a job, it's bittersweet because you start to build relationships, and you know that, those relationships will probably never be the same moving forward. It was kind of surreal at the same time, because I had some kids from McMichael text me like, "Really, coach?" Because that rivalry cuts deep on both sides. And I was there for 4 years across the county, and that's the only time you will hear me say that name, but that was the only time, I was there for 4 years across the county line, or across the county, and, had some good times there, but it was time for me to move in terms of my professional career, and now it was time for me to move again, back closer to home, and to take on another challenge, and to restore, kind of the pride of Eaton, so to speak.
I know you've got those 4 players with you, obviously, by choice. I mean, in terms of what those 4 guys bring to the table, I mean, could you just kind of go through the different players and what they mean to your program and how they look to impact this team this season?
Yeah, well, we have 2 seniors and 2 underclassmen. We have a selection of position groups, but the one thing that they all have in common is grit and determination. And they all have the team's interest at heart. They all want to make the team better. Of course, they want to be the best team player they can be, but they also want to see Morehead be the best that it can be as well. And it's evident by how they practice, and it's evident by how they carry themselves, not only in the practice field, but in the classrooms and in the community as well.
This is for your players. Guys, how does it feel now that every one of these county games are also a conference game? This rivalry means a lot more now.
Yeah, I think it just makes it even more personal. Obviously, you want to go out there and do your best and beat the guys across the street. So I think adding them to the conference just makes it even more personal.
Definitely adds to it a little bit more, because it means you just want to get over the hump with them a little bit more. You got to beat them to go to the playoffs, is what it feels like still. So you just want to have close games with them, win, go home, get ready for next week.
Man, I think it's great because for the longest time, Rockinham's never really been in our conference. Not throwing anything at Rockingham, but it's great that we have Rockingham on conference, and all of our county games are now conference. And I think it makes it a lot easier, but also competitive, because you're not just competing for all county now, you're also competing for all conference, which really adds on to it.
It's good. I mean, I really don't know what to say about it, but I'm just ready to do something this year and prove myself.
Speaking of which, what's it like been playing running back through the spring? And I don't know if you played it before the position, but I don't think you did last year, right?
Yes, sir.
So what's that experience been like for you?
Amazing. I liked it. I've been wanting to play since I was a little kid.
And Coach, how did you identify Marquez as somebody that you wanted in the backfield?
Well, when we first started spring ball, we do the traditional agility drills and run, L drills, box drills. And he was, really light on his feet, pretty nimble. I knew he had a wrestling background, so I knew he, used to be a bigger guy, and he cut a little bit of weight. And he's, you can see he's got a good frame on him. And, he played D-line, so I knew he had a motor. And, I saw how athletic he looked going through those drills. And, one of the things that I do during spring ball is I let guys go to whatever position that they feel like they want to play. He went to running back, and I thought that was a natural fit for him. Now obviously we do have some kids that go to some positions, and then we help them find their position. But he was one. We said, hey, go to what position you want to go to. He went to running back, and running backs coach and myself, we agreed that he's somebody that could really help us in terms of our scheme.
This is for Hagan. How hard was it having to sit out last year with the injury?